Welcome to Gavel. I'm your host, Cobb District Attorney Vic Reynolds. We're very excited to begin a new partnership with TV23 as we bring you a new show, Gavel. This show will be about the Cobb criminal justice system, and we'll make an effort over the next few months to educate our viewers about a system that remains a mystery to most people. In the months ahead, we'll be looking at different subjects like jury duty. What happens when you get a ticket? Where do you go to get a gun license or a marriage license? But for our initial program today, we're going to take a look at the different courts involved in the Cobb criminal justice system. What's the difference in a superior court and a state court? What happens in probate court or juvenile court or magistrate court? And I'm very honored today to have as our first guest our elected Solicitor General and a good friend of mine, Mr. Barry Morgan. Barry's been elected our Solicitor General 5 times. He's a former Solicitor General of the Year, President of the Solicitor Generals Association of Georgia, and recently was named as Mothers Against Drunk Driving Prosecutor of the Year. Barry, it's an honor to have you here with us on our first Gavel to Gavel show.
Thank you, Vic. I appreciate the opportunity.
Barry, why don't we get started a little bit outside of the court system and by having you tell the viewers what you do as Solicitor General and what your office is all about.
Well, you know, the Solicitor General is a prosecution office just like the District Attorney, but we are different in that we prosecute the misdemeanor-only cases. District Attorney has the responsibility for the felonies and the misdemeanors that are associated with them, but we prosecute the misdemeanor only and all those traffic offenses that occur in unincorporated Cobb County. The Solicitor General is not in every county in the state of Georgia. Of the 159 counties, there are 71 of us, and 24 of us are full-time Solicitors General. In the other counties, they're part-time Solicitors General, and they maintain a private practice of law. One of the things that we're able to do in large jurisdictions like Cobb is to allow the District Attorney to focus on the very serious cases, the murders, the armed robberies, the thefts that are pretty extensive, and allow us to concentrate on those serious misdemeanors like driving under the influence of alcohol, domestic violence, and vehicular homicides in the second degree. So it's a way for all the cases to be taken very seriously. I know some of our colleagues who are district attorneys who have the responsibility to prosecute every case that comes in their counties. And this is not a criticism of them, but the DUIs and the domestic violence cases perhaps don't get the same attention in those jurisdictions because they have the murders and the armed robbers and the rapists that they have to deal with.
Well, I know, speaking as the elected district attorney and having a relationship with your office and working with the solicitor's office day in and day out, it basically allows us in this county an opportunity for you to concentrate on serious DUIs, serious misdemeanor offenses, and to give them the full attention they need. Would that be a fair statement?
Exactly, and I think that it's a good system. I think it provides the opportunity for the citizens to be best represented in the full gamut of cases.
Let's talk a little bit about the different court systems. You told us a little bit about what the solicitor's office does. Is the prosecution of the cases you deal with assigned to a specific court system?
Yes, we're a part of the state court system of Cobb County. In the hierarchy of courts, we have the Superior Court, which is the highest trial jury court in a judicial circuit. As I said, in over 70 of the counties, we have a county court called a state court. And those particular courts handle the misdemeanor offenses. Some handle the traffic offenses. In other counties, the smaller counties, it's handled by a different court. And that court also has a civil jurisdiction that includes personal injury cases and things like that's concurrent with the Superior Court.
Let's break that down a little bit for our viewers. If someone is charged with a misdemeanor offense in Cobb County by a Cobb County police officer or by a city officer if it's a serious misdemeanor offense, it would come to your court, and based upon what you're telling us, it would be prosecuted in the state court. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, within the state court, however, are there different divisions depending on the nature of the offense?
We do. We have 2 divisions of the court, generally Division I and Division II. And historically, Division II of our court was our non-jury traffic court. So anything that has to do with a traffic offense began in that court, and if someone requested a jury trial, it was transferred to our Division I of the court, which we historically was a jury trial division. Over the last 2 years, we have begun a process where we have jury trials in the second division of our court, and what was traffic court. But those are specifically traffic offenses. So if Judge A is assigned a DUI case, then that case stays with that judge, and that judge will conduct the jury trial if one is requested. Other types of misdemeanors like thefts and shoplifting, domestic violence, those go to our Division I court. So we still have the 2 divisions, but everybody is participating in jury trials now.
Well, you would think, one would imagine, based on misdemeanor offenses and traffic citations in a county this large, that state court would probably be a high volume court. Is that a fair statement?
We are. We are one of the highest volume courts in the state of Georgia. We have well over 100,000 cases per year, and several years ago we're up to 180,000.
And your office is literally responsible for prosecuting every one of those offenses.
We are. You know, the American Bar Association says that an attorney can effectively handle 150 to 200 cases per year. My assistant solicitor generals are charged with a caseload in excess of 10,000 per year.
It's amazing. Now, most of our viewers would know that in the system, in a broad stroke, there's a criminal case, which you've talked about, as well as a civil case when you sue someone or someone sues you. And I think you touched on it a moment ago, Barry, but in state court, you also have the opportunity, if you're involved in a suit or bringing a suit, to bring that in state court as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. And while Superior Court has exclusive jurisdiction over certain types of civil cases, divorces, and actions in equity, the state court has concurrent jurisdiction with a lot of the civil cases. And I can recall several years ago, one of our judges, Judge Melody Clayton, had a very extensive civil case involving a crash with a Mercedes-Benz that
I remember that case.
That lasted well in excess of 7 to 8 weeks. We had the wreckage of that Mercedes-Benz in the basement of our state court for all of that time, so that the jury could have that exhibit to see.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but before we move to Superior Court, do you have any recollection of how many judges you all have in state court?
We have 12, 7 in our Division I and 5 in our Division II.
One last question about state court, then we'll move to Superior Court. If you file a lawsuit, would it be heard only in one of those divisions or in both divisions, or where would it be heard?
Yes, if you file a civil lawsuit, it's going to be heard in our Division I of our court, and that is assigned by the clerk on a random rotating basis, so that there's no influence by any party as to which judge gets assigned to a case. And those are just randomly assigned unless a judge has some conflict involving that case.
And as far as physical location, let's tell the viewers, the state court is literally the court that's located on the square. Is that correct?
Correct. It's situated on the northeast corner of the square. Has a nice clock tower and is a very beautiful building that, interestingly enough, was paid for fully the day it was opened. It was paid for in cash.
That's good. Says a lot about our county. So
it does.
Let's move across the street to Superior Court. You touched on it a moment ago, and the biggest difference that you told our viewers, as far as criminal cases are concerned, would be that's where felonies are heard. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, help the viewers understand on a basic understanding the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony crime. Is it punishment level, or what defines those?
It is punishment level, and in some instances the seriousness of the offense. I don't want to minimize a crime, because certainly anybody that's involved as a victim of a crime, it's very serious for them, no matter whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony. But in general terms, a felony is defined by the type of punishment that you can receive, and just in simple terms, if you can receive a year or more, up to the death penalty, then that's classified as a felony. A misdemeanor is termed in months, and our maximum punishment is 12 months. Now, one would say, well, 12 months and 1 year are the same thing, but it is how we differentiate between felonies and misdemeanors.
I know your office and my office, I'll certainly speak for the DA's office. We're blessed in that we have a good, close working relationship. And it's not unusual, is it, Barry, for on occasion you all to get a case and say, we think this should be a felony, or for us to get a case and say it's a misdemeanor, and we'll switch or transfer the cases back and forth on occasion. Is that correct?
Exactly. We've got a great system where our chief assistants talk to one another, and if one of my assistants, one of your assistants brings that to them, then they discuss it and cases are transferred back and forth, which I think is a great system. I think it allows for a good working relationship. I know many of my colleagues complain about cases being sent to them that they don't have any choice about, but that's not the case here in Cobb County.
We are very blessed, and your office does a great job in that regard. I know you said a moment ago that in regards to a civil lawsuit, on occasion a lawyer can file it either in Superior or State court. There's a choice, but there's some cases that can only be heard in Superior Court on the civil side. Is that correct?
Correct. The divorce cases, matters of equity and land title, those are all vested with original jurisdiction in Superior Court.
So in other words, if a viewer was involved in some type of domestic situation, a divorce or something of that nature, he or she could not file that legally in State court, could they?
That's correct. Those judges would not have jurisdiction.
But there are some lawsuits, for example, a malpractice case or a business dispute or something along those lines, where a lawyer can literally pick either court he or she would want to file in. Is that also right?
That's correct. And one of the advantages sometimes to State court, filing in State court, is that the case perhaps can be heard sooner in State court, and you know, that's a strategic decision that's made by the attorneys that are involved in those types of cases. If you want the case to be settled rather quickly, then you perhaps would file that in State court.
Good. Well, obviously Superior Court and State Court are where you and I hang our hat most of the time, but they're not the only court systems. We have probate court and juvenile court and magistrate court, and we'll delve into those court systems in just a minute after we take this break. Thank you, Barry.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all working with United Way for a million little reasons. The kids of our communities, to ensure their academic success all the way to graduation day. You see, it takes about 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a kid becoming one or the other could be a professional athlete, or it could be you. Studies showed the earlier we get to kids, the better their chances. So become a United Way volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and make a difference in the life of a child, for the life of that child.
Give.
Advocate.
Volunteer.
Live united. Join your favorite NFL players. Take the pledge. Go to unitedway.org.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
The first day stepping on the court, I couldn't keep up. That motivated me to step up my game. When I reach a goal, I set a new one the next day. And my next goal is to go to college. Mastering the court takes persistence. So does getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
We're back to Gavel with our guest, Barry Morgan, the elected Solicitor General of Cobb County. Barry, we touched before the break a little bit on the difference in Superior Court, State Court, where you and I spend most of our time, but as we said before the break, there's other court systems as well, and another system that you and I find ourselves in frequently and our folks involved in is magistrate court. Let's talk a little bit about it. First of all, from a civil side of a case. We talked about how you could sue folks or bring lawsuits in both Superior and State Court, but you can do it in magistrate court as well with a couple of restrictions. Is that correct?
Correct. I believe the jurisdictional limit is damages up to $15,000. And one interesting thing, several years ago, the Georgia General Assembly changed the filing fees for Superior State Court, but they didn't change the filing fees for magistrate court. And one of the types of civil cases our state court judges did were dispossessories. Well, when the filing fee went up in Superior Court but not in magistrate court, and they had concurrent jurisdiction, all of those dispossessory cases are now being held in magistrate court, so it increased their civil side caseload tremendously.
And dispossessory would be where a landlord perhaps a tenant was not paying a landlord and he or she was going to evict that person and would file what we call a dispossessory. Is that
correct?
Right?
Exactly correct. So their jurisdiction civilly went up tremendously when that happened, and that's I think that was two to 3 years ago.
I know sometimes in the business, magistrate court is referred to as the people's court. And you and I both being lawyers and having practiced law a number of years, we never recommend folks who are involved in legal matters to go without a lawyer. But if there is a court where, for the sake of a better phrase, it would probably be okay to do it, I presume the people's court or magistrate court would be that place. Is that right?
Right, exactly. And while it wouldn't be what you would see on television, because I think the judges would probably hold to a stricter standard of the evidentiary rules than you see on television. It is, I believe, a court where someone who's done their homework and looked at what the relevant laws are would be able to make their way through. But I think, again, with the caveat that, I don't think you want someone who's had no experience being a brain surgeon operating on your brain.
Good analogy. Let's talk a little bit about the criminal case side of magistrate court as well. You and I know, being involved in the system, that a criminal case, if it's not a traffic ticket or a citation, the majority of them frequently start on an officer or an individual swearing out a warrant. Would that be something that would start or be assigned to the duties and tasks of a magistrate court?
Exactly. Our magistrate court is a 24-hour court. In other words, there's a judge available 24 hours a day for those police officers and citizens in some cases to go and speak to the judge about thinking that a crime has been committed, and they present that evidence to the judge, and if the judge believes that it fits the standard of probable cause, that meaning is it more probable or not, A, that a crime was committed, and more probable or not than that the person they're charging committed that crime, then the judge will issue a warrant. It's certainly not proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but it is the standard that's required in our Constitution. And we're very fortunate that we have a court, and for many years has been this way, that we have judges available for the police officers 24 hours a day.
We also have a system, and I'm very proud of this part of the system, where officers don't have to make the physical trek down to the courthouse to get a warrant. They can literally do it electronically from a precinct.
Exactly, and you should be proud of that, because I believe that came in under your tenure as chief magistrate. It saves the officers time. It puts them back out on the streets instead of coming down to the courthouse, getting a warrant and transporting a person to the jail. They're able to physically get that warrant from their precinct and then transport the person to jail, allowing them to get back out on the streets so they can protect us.
I know that magistrate court does a couple of other things on the criminal side as well. When cases begin, an individual's arrested and placed in custody, and if they can't make a bond, they're entitled to a hearing. In the business, we call it a probable cause or a preliminary hearing. That's also done by these magistrates, is that correct?
Exactly. And while there are far more probable cause hearings in superior court cases than there are in state court cases, we have our share of them too. And again, it's a opportunity for the probable cause to be established, and it's all a part of our due process rights that are guaranteed us by the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Georgia. We're offered the opportunity to have the evidence presented to us in a public forum that can be challenged or not challenged. And so it is a great system that our magistrate judges do perform.
Do a good job over there. Just another check and balance along that system. Well, let me touch on one other calendar in magistrate court before we move on to another court that you all are involved in very heavily week to week that I always found to be an interesting calendar was an ordinance calendar. Is that correct? Tell the viewers a little bit about that.
Well, the ordinance violations are laws that are enacted by our county commission. Some are consistent with state law, like disorderly conduct is both a state law offense and it's also a county ordinance offense. An example of many of the county ordinances that we deal with are animal control violations, sign ordinance violations. One interesting one that many people may not realize, you see a lot of people who will take an automobile and put it in a shopping center parking lot and put a for sale sign on it. What they have to understand is they have to go and get the permission of the owner of that property to place that vehicle there. If they've done so without permission, then that's a violation of our ordinance, and they may be cited for that.
So your office not only prosecutes the thousands of misdemeanors you told us about, but you're also literally assigned the task of prosecuting these ordinances as well. Is that right?
Correct. Correct.
Busy office, and magistrate court's a busy court. Let's move to a court that perhaps is not as involved as heavily on the criminal side of matters as our other three courts that we've discussed, and that's probate court. It's more of a specialized court, and the first thing you think of in a probate court is estates and wills being probated and things of that nature, and obviously that's a very important task of probate court. Is there anything about the court, probate court, from a personal point that you've dealt with in probate court you'd like to share with the viewers? Or?
Well, just recently, my father passed away.
Sorry.
And I thank you. And we had his estate probated through probate court, and I find that all of the people in probate court, are very helpful, very nice, very considerate of people, especially at a time like that. And so I find them to be very professional, and our judge in probate court, I think, runs a very good ship.
She does. That's Kelly Walk, and Judge Walk does run a good show. And the interesting thing, too, not only in probate court, but magistrate court, superior court, and state court, all those are elected officials. They stand for election, do they not?
Exactly, and I think that's important because if the people don't feel that those courts are running the way they should, they have the opportunity to hire somebody new, and I think that's a great part of our system.
And probate court also is involved in the appointment and removal of guardianships and executors and things of that nature. But one of the, I guess irony would be the first word that comes to mind. One of the more ironic things about the probate court is the issue of license. Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about some of the different licenses you can get in the same court, probate court?
Well, one is a marriage license, and there's certain procedures that you have to follow before you get that marriage license, and they're very well articulated on the probate court website. You can also, if you need a copy of a marriage license, you can go to our probate court and give them the names of the individuals and the date that they were married, and they can provide you with a certified copy of that marriage certificate. But one of the ways that sometimes we're impacted in our office through the probate court is the issuance of a gun license, because there are several restrictions on people who can carry a gun license, and sometimes when the records aren't exactly clear whether somebody's a convicted felon or they have been convicted of an offense which prevents them from owning a weapon, like some domestic violence cases do, the probate court will contact our office so we can help clarify what those sentences might have been, and perhaps they call your office as
They do.
well on those convicted felons. So again, a good checks and balance. They're just not gonna, they take their responsibility seriously in that, and just aren't issuing licenses without doing the things that they're supposed to do.
Last court, juvenile court. Let's talk a little bit about it. I know we often say that children are our future, and certainly not only in this county, but in this state and in this country. And juveniles court is where matters are handled involving our youth. Is that correct?
Correct. And you know, the juvenile court is an old court. I believe it was established in the 1800s as a part of Superior Court, and I think in some of the more rural jurisdictions of the state, the Superior Court judge actually has to handle the juvenile court matters if they don't have a juvenile judge appointed. In our jurisdiction, we're very blessed to have 4 juvenile court judges, and they handle situations that involve termination of parental rights. They can involve some custody issues, and they involve the criminal offenses.
Cases.
Although I'm not sure what nomenclature we use in juvenile court with that, but I know your office is vested with the responsibility of prosecuting cases in juvenile court, and you have 2 fine assistant DAs who are who work in that court. My office has been requested by the chief juvenile court judge for a number of years to prosecute the non-serious traffic offenses, the speedings, the failure to maintain lane. We don't handle the DUI cases. Your assistant DAs do that, but we treat those kids in that particular court, the traffic court, as if they're adults.
Good.
Because an adult, driving is an adult activity, and the punishment that is enacted in juvenile court is the same as it is in state court.
Good.
Now I know the focus in the criminal cases, the more serious delinquent cases and that sort of thing, is what's in the best interest of the child, but that's a focus of the juvenile court itself.
Well, Barry, thank you, and a couple of thanks to you. One, thanks for being our first guest on our very first inaugural Gavel to Gavel. Thank you for helping educate our viewers about the criminal justice system, particularly in Cobb County, and perhaps most importantly, thank you for your service as Solicitor General of this county. I've been elected 5 times. There's a reason why the voters continuously put you there. You do a great job. I've seen it personally, and I've seen it up close. And on behalf of all the citizens, thank you for everything you do there. We appreciate it. And most of all, thanks to the viewers for watching our first Gavel to Gavel show. We'll look forward to seeing you in the months ahead as we do our best to educate you about the criminal justice system in Cobb County. Again, I'm Cobb District Attorney Vic Reynolds. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.